Hello and welcome, or welcome back as the case may be. I'm Uncle Mike, and today we're making, well, nothing, I guess. Today we're maintaining. For those new to the channel, this is Kobe. She's a Kobelco SK30UR 3-ton mini-excavator, and she's due a little bit of routine maintenance. Nothing too special going on here, but it's been 250 hours since several of my last intervals, so we're gonna catch things up. On the docket, we've got an oil change, coolant flush, grease all the grease points, that kind of stuff. There's a couple of wet spots I want to look into. Some things are leaking, not bad enough to be urgent, but if it's an easy fix, I might go for it. There's one pin that won't take grease that needs to be addressed. It's been like that since I bought it. Time to finally do something about it. What else? Air filter clean, that kind of stuff. Easy stuff. But it's a beautiful day and the ravens are singing and the sun is out. Oh, that breeze is nice. But it's probably bad for my audio. So I'm gonna have a lovely afternoon wrenching in these beautiful woods, and hopefully something herein will be at least vaguely interesting to some of you. First up, we're gonna start with the oil change, I think. Here is where the magic happens. This is a Yanmar 3-cylinder diesel engine. There's nothing special or magic going on in here. You can change the oil in your Honda Civic, you can change the oil in an excavator. All the usual suspects are here. Dipstick, fill cap, oil filter, and then the drain plugs on the bottom so that the oil comes out better. So I have a filter wrench, but I can't find it right now. So here's hoping that past Uncle Mike wasn't having a Gorilla Grip rage day when he tightened this. Oh yeah, I think it's moving. Yep. Lucky me. You ever see so many languages on an oil filter? It's a very well-traveled excavator part. Looks like it's gonna fit. And any automotive YouTubers who manage to do this showing anything more than just the back of their hands and their elbows, hats off. Watch your eyes. All right, Cap, you gonna open for me? Well, that was unexpectedly helpful. Where'd it go? Gosh, you little bugger. So the manual states that an oil change with filter should be about 1.25 gallons. have in my notes that last time it only took about a gallon to get onto the high side of the dipstick. It used to kind of worry me. Then I decided to not worry about it. That's been working great. So hey, dipstick, you want to jump out of there? Sure? Okay, that's probably for the best. If you happen to own one of these older machines, take a peek at the App Store for a remote start app. You might be surprised. No, I'll get it this time. Thanks for the offer, though. Here we go, right at the high mark. Well, we're here, we'll clean the air filter, which is right here. I cleaned this not that long ago, but I still expect it to need it pretty bad. You saw the dust I blew out at the start here. It has been dry in the area I've been working, and the tracks kick up a ton of dust and it gets sucked into everything, so frequent cleaning. Yeah, you can see, even though I cleaned this a week ago, there's already, so let's blow this stuff out. Next order of business, as you may have already surmised, is coolant flush. I got a funnel that came with adapters. Cool thing about this is that you can fill this up into the funnel and then run the machine, and as air works its way out and bubbles up, it doesn't splash over the top and you don't have to keep topping it up. It'll just sort of self-bleed the radiator and try and get it 100% populated with fluid so that it cools better. All right, I should have the air out of the system. Looks like I got a little bit overzealous in filling. Cool thing is this funnel also comes with a little plug, so you can stop up the hole, not dump all that out when you pull it apart. Magic. Now I can just take the excess and dump it in my overflow reservoir. Easy peasy. Fortunately, a little extension does spill. Not really much to do about that. Except to have a bucket below to catch it. Next order of business is hydraulic fluid. See that ratty old sticker? Believe it or not, that's one of the best conditioned ones on the whole machine. And I've been told by those who know such things, all of these incomprehensible squiggles here tell you how to check the hydraulic level. Fortunately, for people like me, there's pictures. That shows a sight glass with the oil right in the middle, and that shows the machine sitting on level ground with the blade down, the boom down, and the dipper and wrist fully extended. Doesn't provide any information on side shift, so I just centered that. And there's the sight glass, and there's no oil visible. So we gotta top it up. Here we go. Oil showing on the sight glass, and it's more or less in the middle. So that took around a gallon of fresh hydraulic fluid, which is a lot more than I was expecting. Got a number of damp spots, drips and leaks and things, but none of them seem that bad. Probably worth a little exploration. So here's an example of what I mean when I'm talking about a damp spot. This is the return hydraulic line. Comes up from below here, there's an elbow, goes through this coupling, and then that turns in and that goes to the return filter on the reservoir. And you can see this coupling and this pipe, they're dirty, but they're dry. And right there at that seam, this one's dirty and, I mean, not wet, but the dirt has a much oilier, wetter consistency. So that means that there's no dripping or anything, but there's a really slow leak right at that joint. Down here, this is just black on black. I don't know how it's going to show up on camera. This is another return line. It comes in, it tees in here and goes up, and it's a soft line. It's a rubber hose. It's got hose clamps on it. This is another return that tees in right here. This one's dry, but this one's quite wet. This one's a lot worse than the one above it. It's actually got grime you can peel off of it and appears to be worse behind the radiator. So it's got one or probably both ends of it are slowly leaking. But as you go down this line, come around the corner, you can see that there's another coupling here. This is worse than above. So I believe that in this area I have 3 slow leaks. That one at the top that goes from dry to slightly damp, the rubber hose, and the top of this one. So I'm just gonna go through and nip them up a little bit, tighten the fasteners to clamp it a little bit harder and see if that stops it. Probably won't, but it's also super easy, so we're gonna try it first. Man, those turn easy. I don't know how tight it's supposed to be. I don't want to break something. Let's see, there's a frame member in the way you can't see very well, so there's that coupling. Let me come around here. There's the screws I want to tighten. Again, these are turning really easy. kind of do a half turn on each, maybe 3/4 turn. See how it goes. All right, back up here, we're going to try and get these. Are these 7mm? Lunacy. That certainly doesn't feel loose. All right, next order of business, grease. There's a load of grease fittings on an excavator. It's pretty easy to find them all. You just kind of have to work through the kinematic chain, and everything that moves needs some lube. So I'm going to start at the base of the arm here. I happen to know on this machine, this is one of the only remote grease fittings right here. There's a grease line runs down and feeds way down in there, so you don't have to do any contortionist BS to get it done right. I'll start with that and then work my way towards the bucket. So that's the whole arm done, including the 2 grease fittings that I placed when I rebuilt the pins, which wrist pins are both holding up fantastic, by the way. Now I just need to do the blade and the slew. So this grease fitting's a problem. We're gonna go ahead and try it, but it has never accepted grease. And I replaced the Zerk a year or so ago, and it still didn't accept the grease, so it's not the fitting. Yeah, nothing. Once I get to the end of the list, if I'm sufficiently motivated, I might come back to this, or I might let it ride. So the slew grease fitting is right here. It's also the only actual rolling element bearing on the machine. Everything else is just steel bushings. And so I use extreme pressure molybdenum grease on those, but that's not the best for rollers. So I've got a sort of more generic bearing grease that I use here. Also, in addition to using a different kind of grease, I've read that this bearing has seals, which makes sense, I believe that. And if you pump grease too aggressively, you can actually blow the seals out and make a lot of work for yourself. So I always go real easy here, whereas on everything else, I just pump till I see grease squirting out somewhere. On this one, I really pay attention to the feel in the handle of the gun and put in about 12 full pumps and call it good. That's it. And that one fitting, it doesn't play nice. It's the whole machine greased. Next on the list is track tension. In the manual, I think there's a process where you lay a straight edge across half the top of the track. There's a roller under here that supports the center and the edge, and then you measure how much it sags in the middle. Well, you measure the maximum gap. That's the amount that it's sagging. I tried that a couple of times and didn't have a lot of success. It seemed to be really dependent on where the track was in its rotation and how firm the ground was that it was sitting on. Like, you could adjust it that way, but then you drive 10 feet and measure it again, it'd be totally wrong. So I have adopted a different method that appears in many other types of excavator maintenance procedures, where you lift the track off the ground and you measure how much the bottom sags away from those rollers. And that's independent of the ground firmness and the posture of the machine and any of those other variables that were causing me so much grief before. It still has some variation. There are tight spots and loose spots in the track, so if you spin it a little bit and remeasure, it's not perfect, but it seems a lot more consistent and makes more sense to me. So that's what I tend to do, and that's what I'm going to do right now. A lot easier than jacking up a car. So this is the gap I'm looking at, the gap between these rollers and where they run. Now, I've seen forums and videos online and things where it's just like, oh, set it to a finger width. That's bloody terrifying because, I don't know, I mean, it's supported by itself, but it's still just hydraulics. If that dropped and your finger was in there, no more finger. So I use my Leatherman Wave. It's around about 3/4 inches thick, and that seems to be working well for me for track tension. And I actually use the pocket clip as a no-go. So if the body of the Leatherman passes through here, but the pocket clip doesn't, I say I'm in good shape. You can see here, pocket clip does, got a bit of clearance, so this track needs to be tensioned a little. To tension these tracks, there's a grease fitting in here that connects to basically a dumb and dirty hydraulic cylinder full of grease. So you pump more in, tightens the tracks. Sucks if you overshoot, because then you have to pull the fitting out, blast out a bunch of grease, and sort of start over. Here we go. See, that was just 2 pumps. That's about right. Just for good measure, I'm gonna crank the machine, rotate the track a couple of times, check again, make some minor adjustments if I need to, but that's the procedure. Go side, no clip. No go side with a clip. Go side goes, no go side no goes. QC passed. Let's go do the other side. Okay, that's everything on the scheduled maintenance list, and I still got a little bit of time before dinner. So let's take a crack at this pin. What do you think, buddy? You gonna cooperate? Please? Looks like this pin is just a cylinder, but let's make sure I'm not going to do something stupid here like whale on the head. Okay, yep, same size on both sides. Good. Let's see if we can budge this thing. Not promising. I'm going to take that circ and that little plastic cap off. No need to make more of a mess than I need to. Well, I'm running out of daylight and motivation, and this pin hasn't budged a bit. Fortunately, with the kinematics of the blade, the rotation required on this pin is extremely minimal, so leaving it ungreased is pretty low stakes. I think I'm just going to put this bolt back in and put this one on the undone list. Can't win them all. Well, I'm going to wrap that one there. Got a good bit done today. Not everything I set out to do, but got the oil change done, the coolant flush, greased everything, cleaned the air filter. Should be good for, I think it's 250 hours of service. Next time you see Kobe, we'll be doing work with her instead of doing work on her, and that's exciting. So whatever that ends up being, we'll see you then. Yeah, bye-bye.